The sky over Neo Astra glowed silver, and flying cars hummed gently between tall glass towers. The city was rich, clean, and always moving. But like all places, it had shadows too, dark corners where danger waited quietly. On one quiet afternoon, a woman named Lani stepped out of Galactic Trust Bank, one of the largest space banks in the city. She carried a small bag of groceries in one hand and a slim silver credit pouch in the other. She walked slowly, eyes low, not in a rush. She looked like just another quiet face in the crowd. But two men were watching her. They stood near a tall food vendor robot and wore long coats. Their faces were covered with silver masks. One of them nodded. The other whispered, "She's the one. Easy grab." Lani didn't notice them. She turned the corner, heading toward the train station. The two men moved quickly, their boots light on the steel walkway. Then grab. One snatched her bag, the other pushed her hard. Lani fell to the ground, hitting the metal with a sharp gasp. Her groceries spilled everywhere. The credit pouch bounced out of her hand and slid across the floor. People turned, but no one helped. Some just stared. Others looked away. One woman quickly pulled her child back and rushed inside a nearby shop. No one wanted to get involved. Lani tried to stand. One of the attackers kicked her lightly back down and laughed. "This is what Earth trash gets for walking in Nova Zone," the tall one said. Suddenly, a black hover car stopped across the street. Its smooth body gleamed under the neon lights. The car didn't move again. Slowly, the back door opened. A tall man stepped out. He wore a long hooded jacket. His hands were in his pockets. His face couldn't be seen under the hood. He didn't say a word. He just watched. The attackers noticed the car. They froze for a second, but then laughed. "Move along, old man. This ain't your business." The hooded man kept walking forward, slowly, calmly. Lani looked up and saw the man's boots. Her eyes filled with fear, thinking he might be another threat. But he stepped between her and the attackers. "Hey," one of them said, stepping forward. "Did you not hear me?" Still, the man didn't speak. He looked at Lani's spilled groceries, then at her scraped hand. Then finally, he raised his head. The hood fell back, and there he was. Vin Diesel. His face was serious. His eyes were hard, not angry, but something deeper, like he'd seen this kind of cruelty too many times before. One of the muggers took a step back. "Wait, that's not. No way." Vin Diesel didn't blink. The shorter attacker moved to grab the credit pouch. Vin's foot shot forward like a hammer. One kick sent the man flying back 5 feet. He crashed into a recycling bin with a loud thud. The tall one pulled out a small plasma stick and charged. Vin ducked low, grabbed his arm, and twisted it behind his back. With one clean move, he disarmed him and slammed him to the ground. People across the street gasped. Some started filming. Vine looked around. Anyone else want to help now? A few people ran toward Lani. A vendor handed her water. Someone called the local patrol. Vine helped her up gently. "You okay?" he asked, voice deep but calm. Lani nodded slowly, still in shock. She looked into his eyes and whispered, "Why did you help me?" Vine looked down at the credit pouch, then at the crowd that had just stood there. He spoke in a low, firm voice. A floating police drone zipped down and hovered above the scene. Its scanner lights flashed red and blue as it called for backup. The two attackers groaned on the ground, still dizzy from Vin Diesel's quick takedown. A robotic voice from the drone said, "Suspects identified. Criminal records found. Charges will be filed." Lani stood quietly next to Vin. She still looked shocked. A kind woman gave her a small blanket from a nearby cafe. People finally came closer, pretending they had cared the whole time. Vine didn't speak. He just stared at the two men until patrol officers arrived. Tall robots with human faces and calm voices. One officer turned to Vin. "Sir, was this your doing?" Vin gave a small nod. The officer blinked. "Understood. They won't be bothering anyone again." The officers grabbed the attackers and flew off in a silent pod. Lani turned to Vin. "You didn't have to help me. I didn't think anyone would." Vine looked at her for a moment. "That's the problem with this city. Too many people just watch." He walked toward his black hover car, but then Lani called out, "Wait." Vine stopped. She hesitated, then said, "Why were you here? Why me?" Vine slowly turned. His face softened. "I was waiting for someone," he said. "Didn't know it would be you." That answer made no sense. Before Lani could ask more, the car door opened on its own. Vine stepped inside. The car began to rise, then stopped midair. Vine looked out the window at her. "Be careful," he said. They weren't working alone. Then the car sped off, vanishing into the traffic above. Lani froze. They weren't working alone. Her eyes widened. Suddenly, the robbery didn't feel random anymore. She picked up her things and looked around. A strange man in a dark blue coat was watching her from across the street. The moment their eyes met, he walked away fast. Lani's heart beat faster. Was someone still following her? Was this part of something bigger? Scene shifts to a shadowy room, somewhere in the city. A large screen shows footage of the incident. Vin Diesel stopping the attack. A man in a silver suit watches closely. Vin Diesel interfered, he says. Another voice responds in the dark. He wasn't supposed to be there. The silver-suited man narrows his eyes. Change of plans. Keep watching the woman and bring in backup. Back at her apartment, Lani locks the doors, pulls the curtains, and checks her messages. One new message. No sender name. Just one line. "You're in danger. Don't trust anyone. Not even the bank." She stares at the screen in fear. Who sent it? Why her? And why did Vin Diesel say they weren't working alone? Vin's warning echoed in her mind. They weren't working alone. The strange message, "Don't trust the bank," kept flashing in her brain. She sat alone at her small kitchen table, staring at her credit pouch. Was this all about money or something more? Suddenly, her datapad buzzed. It was a call from someone claiming to be neobank security. A calm voice said, "Miss Lani, we noticed your credit account was flagged during the robbery. Please come in for a private check. Bring your pouch." She hesitated. The voice added, "We only want to make sure your credits are safe." It sounded normal, but too normal. Still, she agreed. "I'll be there." Scene. Neobank headquarters. The building shimmered with bright lights. Floating guards stood at the doors. Lani stepped inside. A polite woman with no name tag greeted her. "This way, please," the woman said, leading her into a private room. Inside, two men in suits were waiting. Their smiles didn't reach their eyes. One of them said, "Miss Lani, we just need to scan your credit pouch." He held out a device. But Lani pulled back. "Why aren't you showing your IDs?" The room went silent. The man's face changed. His smile dropped. "That's not important." Lani knew something was wrong. Suddenly, the other man locked the door behind her. "Give us the pouch," he demanded. "We know what's inside." Lani backed away. Then, boom, the door burst open. Smoke flooded the room. From the smoke, a tall figure stepped in. Vin Diesel, wearing black armor and dark glasses. "I warned you," he said. "She's not yours to use." The two fake agents pulled weapons, small plasma knives. Vin moved fast. With two sharp moves, he knocked both men out cold. One crashed through the glass table. The other flew into the wall. Vin grabbed Lani's hand. "Let's go." This wasn't a test. It was a trap. They ran through the hallway. Alarms blared. Robotic guards activated. Doors began sealing. Lani gasped. "How did you know I was here?" Vin didn't stop moving. "I tracked the message. The moment they lured you in, I came." They reached a side exit. Vine scanned his eye. Door opened. Outside, his black hover car waited, engine humming. But Lani froze before getting in. "Why me?" she shouted. "Why do they want my credits?" Vine looked at her, serious now. "They don't want your credits," he said. "They want what your father left behind." Lani blinked. "My father? He died 10 years ago." Vine nodded. "And he left you something, hidden in that pouch. You just didn't know it yet." Scene cut. Somewhere deep in Neobank's lower floors. The two knocked-out agents are carried into a lab. A voice in the shadows says she still has it, and now Vin Diesel is protecting her. Another voice answers, then we take them both down. The black hover car raced through the glowing streets of Neo Astra. Inside, Lani sat beside Vin Diesel, her hands shaking as she held the credit pouch. What do you mean my father left something in this? She asked. Vine kept his eyes on the road. He was more than a banker, Lani. He worked with the resistance. Before he died, he hid something valuable in that pouch, something they want back. Lani looked down at the leather pouch she used for years. But it's just old, she said. I've used it 100 times. Vine nodded. Exactly. That's what made it the perfect hiding spot. They reached a quiet garage under an abandoned data tower. Vine scanned his hand, and a secret door opened. Inside was a small safe room with metal walls, blinking screens, and a table. Put it there, Vin said. Lani placed the pouch on the table. Vine pulled out a small scanner. A soft blue light passed over the pouch. For a moment, nothing happened. Then click. A hidden compartment popped open in the bottom. Inside, a tiny glowing chip. Lani gasped. What is that? Vin picked it up carefully. His face was serious now. It's a list. A full map of every corrupt official in Neo Astra. Bankers, leaders, police, people controlling the system. Lani's eyes widened. He kept that? Why didn't he give it to someone? Vine looked at her. He trusted you. He knew one day you'd be strong enough to choose what to do with it. Lani sat back, her mind spinning. Meanwhile, in the shadows of Neobank headquarters, a hologram flickers. A man with silver eyes and a deep voice says, they found the chip. We can't let them go public. He looks at a soldier in black armor. Send the Reaper. The soldier nods. Consider it done. Back in the safe house, Vine loaded the chip into a small datapad. Files appeared. Photos, names, locations. This could change the future of the city, he said. But Lani shook her head. If we go public, they'll hunt me forever. Vine looked at her. Then we don't go public. We're those smart. We take them down. One by one. Suddenly, boom. An explosion rocked the safe house. The lights flickered. Alarms blared. Vin grabbed Lani and pulled her back. Get behind me, he said calmly. From the smoke, a figure stepped in, tall, dressed in shadow armor, glowing red eyes. The Reaper. He said nothing, just raised a plasma blade. Vin whispered to Lani, stay down. I've faced him before, and I won't lose this time. The fight began. The air inside the safe house turned thick with smoke and tension. The Reaper stepped forward, slow and silent. His red eyes glowed like fire. He raised his plasma blade toward Vin Diesel. Vine stood tall, calm, but ready. I've been waiting for this, Vin muttered. In a flash, the Reaper charged. Vin moved fast, dodging the first swing, countering with a punch that shook the room. Sparks flew as the two titans clashed in the narrow space. Behind them, Lani crouched low, clutching the datapad. Her heart pounded in her chest. She knew the chip inside held the truth, and the truth was dangerous. Outside, Neobank's strike drones began to arrive, small black machines buzzing in the night sky, scanning for movement. Inside, Vin and the Reaper crashed through walls. Metal bent. Lights shattered. The Reaper kicked Vin hard, sending him flying across the room. Vin groaned, but stood up again, his jacket torn. You don't give up, do you? The Reaper growled. Vine smiled through blood. Neither did her father. That made the Reaper hesitate, just for a second. Vin took the chance, grabbing a steel pipe and slamming it into the Reaper's helmet. The mask cracked. The Reaper staggered. Lani looked at the datapad, then at a control panel near the wall. She remembered something her father once told her. If you're ever in danger, activate the pulse lock. She ran for it. Lani, no, Vin shouted, still fighting. But she slammed her hand on the panel. A pulse field lit up around the room, trapping everyone inside. The drones outside stopped. The Reaper looked around, confused. Vin grinned. You just locked yourself in with us. The Reaper growled and lunged at Lani, but Vin grabbed him midair and slammed him into the ground. That's enough. Vine stood over the Reaper, his boot on the enemy's chest. Lani stared, breathing hard. It's over. Vine nodded. Almost. A few hours later, news broke across every major screen in Neo Astra. A secret list had been leaked, proof of corruption across the galaxy's biggest banks, officials, and leaders. Anonymous sources claimed the chip came from inside Neobank. People began protesting. Investigations started. The resistance grew stronger. In a quiet rooftop far from the chaos, Lani sat beside Vin, watching the stars. Is this what my dad died for? She asked softly. Vine looked at her. He believed in justice. And now, thanks to you, people are finally seeing the truth. She looked down at her hands. What now? Vine smiled faintly. Now, you decide. You've got his strength, his courage, and his purpose. He stood up and looked into the night. Neo Astra needs more than heroes. It needs people who won't stay silent. Lani nodded. She wasn't scared anymore. Back inside the city, at a prison transport station, a guard walked past the Reaper, now chained and silent. But he smiled under his broken mask. This isn't over, he whispered, and somewhere deep in the shadows, someone else was watching, plotting, waiting.